So something I've been wanting to talk about here on the YouTube channel, guys, is investing. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. Obviously, for those of you who are not accustomed to my YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel for, since 2018, I've been talking about gaming related content. And gaming's been, a passion of mine. But at the same time, actually earlier than when I started this YouTube channel, back in 2016 is when I started investing into the stock market. And I've, you know, I truly believe that the stock market opens human potential and it created this opportunity that anybody can really be anything. Yeah, an average person can become more than you ever thought was possible. And the stock market really opened that up for me as a person who, growing up in a middle class home, I was able to, and I learned about it on my own. My parents didn't really, they invest, but it wasn't at the level of, what other people were doing. They were putting money into 401k or a Roth IRA, putting a little bit of money into like Apple stock or, a couple of stocks here or there, but nothing crazy. And for me, at least, I felt that it was important to put out there my story on, how to get started in the stock market, because it really is something that's a little bit, controversial. A lot of people think that there's a multitude of different ways of doing it. And for someone who has not made it in the stock market, but still growing my portfolio and still growing, my wealth at this point in time, I don't think you ever stop growing your wealth if you're smart about it. But I think that I really wanted to give you guys a couple of things of, really how to start investing in the stock market if you were starting from scratch with like a couple of dollars, which is basically what I was doing. And so what I did in terms of the stock market and how I got started, the first thing is first, it's really important to have a nest egg of money before you even think about putting money into the stock market. And so number one, guys, is putting together an emergency fund. Typically, they say 6 months of having an emergency fund, 6 months worth of expenses. I actually recommend doing 12 months of expenses. A 12-month emergency fund gives you the opportunity that in the event of a recession, in the event of some really crazy event happening, which obviously, at this current juncture in time, that being like with the recession talks coming out there, I would highly recommend building up about 12 months of, having an emergency fund that would be good for those 12 months of expenses in the event that you lost your job or something of that nature. That way you have a year where you're able to figure out your next move. I think that's very important. Number two, a lot of people talk about debt as a bad thing. I look at debts in terms of if you have a lot of debt outside of like a car payment or a house payment, you really want to try to eliminate it, or you pay off the statement balance on your credit card. For me, I use a credit card. It's the Fidelity credit card. So I invest solely with Fidelity, and I really shouldn't say solely with Fidelity, because I have accounts with a couple of other firms, that being like Robinhood and Vanguard, but my primary one is with Fidelity. But Fidelity Investments, what they do is what's really, really cool is they've got a credit card that every time that you use it, you get 1% back. But what they can do is you can actually just put it directly into an account, whether it's an investment account, a health savings account, a Roth IRA. You could put it into a multitude of different things. And so I do that currently. So, but if you don't have, if you don't feel comfortable with the credit card thing, like you could get into some credit card debt, I'd recommend staying away from that. So that's the next thing, is kind of eliminating certain debts that don't make sense. I think car payments, as long as they're not too high, and a house payment, as long as it's not too high, are, in my opinion, good debt. Credit cards, things of that nature, other lines of credit, I don't think that they're really good debt unless you're paying off the statements on a consistent basis so that you're not paying for those crazy interest rates. The next thing is, when I started investing into the stock market, I started investing into index funds. So what I did was I picked three real, popular index funds and just started funneling my money into those three funds and started building those out. Now, index funds, mutual funds, those are, I believe they're good funds and they're safe. They're really, really safe funds to put money into. They're not going to grow like crazy. They're not going to go down like crazy. Typically, they go down very slowly during a bad, market. They go up very slowly in a good market. So you put your money in there, and those index funds, mutual funds, are going to be funds that are going to be buying into a ton of different companies, right? They're going to be buying, some shares of Apple in them. There's going to be some shares of Coca-Cola, some of the blue chip stocks, and maybe some more aggressive things like Coinbase, or even things that are even more aggressive than that. And so you buy into I started by buying shares of those, some index funds, mutual funds. And as I was starting to slowly build some wealth, that almost created a second layer nest egg for me, in terms of like a second emergency fund. So to give you an example, let's just say that 12 months of savings got wiped out based on, we had a huge recession. I wasn't able to find work for an entire year. I went through my entire 12 months of expenses. Well, at that point, I would start dipping into those index funds and I would start cashing those out. And so it kind of creates a little bit more of instead of like selling, stocks or, stocks that are giving you dividends and things of that nature, I figured I would go to that nest egg of money that was going to be in those mutual or index funds. And typically, depending on, which funds you are investing into, there's no fees for withdrawing money. So that being said, the next thing that that at least what I did, and guys, this is not investing advice. This is just giving you guys an idea of what I did and ways that I've been able to build wealth over time is through kind of this strategy. The next thing that I did, guys, was I started buying into some, blue chip stocks is what they call them. More of like the boring stocks, the safe stocks. But I would never... I would always recommend doing your own research, whether you're looking at balance sheets, whether you're looking at PE ratios, the market capitalization, all of those different things. And as you're looking at like quarterly earnings, always doing your research and investing in things that you feel a confidence in. So what I started with were companies, and it's interesting because one of the stocks I invested into from the very beginning was my one and has been my only mistake so far in the market. And that stock, I invested into Coca-Cola, which is the first one, which is a great investment, still holding it to this day. And my second investment was Snapchat. And Snapchat, guys, the reason why this was a terrible investment for me, I'm not saying that Snapchat is a horrible company or anything of that nature, but it was a business model I didn't understand. And it had just recently gone public, or it just had recently IPO'd on the stock market. And I felt that maybe Snapchat was going to be one of those stocks that would spike up to the moon like, Facebook did, or even at the very least, maybe something, it was a little bit higher than say Twitter or something of that nature. And it ended up just being a terrible investment for me. And the reason being was, more than anything, I didn't properly do my research on Snapchat. And it was something I personally didn't even have a Snapchat at the time. I didn't understand it. And, what I'm getting at is that was a huge mistake for me because I didn't understand the business model. I didn't understand Snapchat even as a platform. I didn't understand it, and so I should have never got into it. So that was my one mistake. But Coca-Cola has been an incredible investment for me. Just a very slow growth, but giving you dividends as you go along the journey. AT&T, Bank of America were the other two that I was investing pretty heavily into. Kind of rounded out like my big three of like core stocks that I wanted to have a good amount of money into, that I would just let them kind of do their thing over the course of time. The next thing was starting to build out a little bit of some tech, getting into like the tech sector, that being, companies, as time has gone here, companies like Zoom, companies like Roku, even, more recently than not, Coinbase, getting into Apple, of course, obviously, the largest, company in the world, Facebook, getting into some of those other tech related stocks, I felt was really important. Tesla was probably my investment that paid off the most in terms of, in terms of like growth. In the tech sector for me, I invested a good amount into Tesla, and then it ended up spiking, and I was buying Tesla just so you guys get an idea. I started buying Tesla every time that it would go under $300 a share. I was buying into it, and it would keep on kind of fluctuating over time. It was going a little bit up, it would spike, and then it would come back down. But every time that it went under $300, I kept on buying, and then all of a sudden it spiked. The stock split. I sold part of my stake in Tesla, and I bought a Tesla, and that's what I ended up doing. And so, but to this day, I still hold a stake in Tesla because I think it's very, very important. And then on top of that, now with the stock being crushed as much as it's been, I definitely continued to invest into Tesla for sure. So that was a stock that really helped me, kind of get to the next level of what I wanted to do, in terms of my portfolio and everything else. So what I'm getting at, guys, is you would recommend picking like anywhere between like 10 to 15 stocks. I would pick primarily safe stocks that you feel a confidence in, that are paying you dividends. Now, dividends, for those of you who don't know, are basically returns that you get from holding a stock. And what companies will do is they will essentially give back to their shareholders. Companies like Coca-Cola that really aren't continuing to invest heavily into their business, they're giving that money back to shareholders. And so comes in the form of a quarterly dividend. Now, every company works differently. Sometimes they pay a dividend once a year, kind of like Activision Blizzard, or a couple times a year like Disney. Every company works a little bit different. But having a heavy dividend portfolio, I think, is really important, because then you can take the money that they're giving you for holding the shares, and you can either reinvest them back into those specific stocks, which is what I'm doing, or you can take that money and start buying into another stock altogether. Or if you build enough dividend shares in these dividend stocks, you can some people are retiring off of it. They're able to just live off of the dividends that are coming. And for most people, that's something that would come down the road, right? As you build your portfolio out over time, you can get it to those levels. And so that's how I have done investing at this point, guys. And I'm continuing to kind of keep the same strategy during this current juncture time, that being like a recession period. I think it's a great opportunity to build generational wealth. I really believe that, buying and buying more, and not just holding for, a couple of months and then selling. I think that holding for the long term, buying in companies that you believe in for the long term, and then reaping those rewards as time goes, when those stocks go up. But I think right now is the best time to get into the market, because even if the market continues to go down and continues to crash, it's going to go back up. And when it goes back up, those are going to be some incredible returns over time. And I definitely recommend that. I think 2023 should be a year, if you're not in the market, that you should be getting into the market and taking advantage of the opportunity for all these companies that are on sale right now. I look at the stock market as a real market. I look at it as if I was going to the store and I saw a piece of clothing that was on sale, and it was something that I had wanted for a while. You are going to probably pick it up that day if it's on sale. And so I look at the stock market as the same thing. If I feel like companies that I believe in for the long term and I really love for the long term, I'm going to continue buying those shares, whereas a lot of other people are just selling those shares off. And so that's my mindset going into, obviously in 2023, right here, right now, is just pushing the buy and buy more mindset in the stock market, so that whether it's 2024, 2025, or further than that, when the stock market turns back around, which history shows that it will turn back around at some point or another. There may be some dark ages for a while, but if you can get through the pain, there's going to be some massive gain at the end of the tunnel. But let me know what you guys, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts about this. I would love to hear like an open-ended conversation about this, guys. What are some of your strategies that you're going into in the stock market here in 2023? Is there, different strategies that you guys are coming up with that you're finding are working, things that aren't working? Are you guys just getting into the market? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Let's have a real conversation about it. And for more stock market content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.